Please remember to mute yourselves when you're not, those that have microphone access.
All right, thank you everyone for joining.
Please remember to mute yourselves when you're not, those that have microphone access.
Thank you. We are now YouTube live. All right, thank you everyone for joining.
Please remember to mute yourselves when you're not, those that have
All right, thanks everyone for joining and welcome to our How to Compost virtual workshop. I know that most of you are our early adopters who signed up in the first round of our composting opt-in countywide program. I also know some of you are folks who are eagerly looking forward for your opportunity to opt in to the next round of the program. So we'll talk a lot tonight about how to compost, and we'll talk a little bit about what are the next steps for the program. Whoa, some of my compostable items are blowing around in the wind right in front of me. But I just want to welcome you, say thank you for being here, and talk to you about what it means to be an early adopter. It means so much to us that you all are committed enough to the program to sign up first. And we know that some of the things about this rollout haven't gone perfectly. In some ways, you guys are guinea pigs, and we're learning with you about how we can do it better for the rest of the county. One of the things that government does, unfortunately, is we try to do everything perfect. And sometimes when we do everything perfect, we wind up with, not exactly as good as we would like it. So we know we haven't communicated with you as much as we would have liked to. We are here to fix that. This is the first step of ongoing engagement with all of you all. We're going to give you information about how to reach out, and we're going to make sure that you have all of the tools that you need to be a part of this really exciting program that is going to do so much in terms of bringing the county forward in our waste efforts and being part of the solutions to climate change by reducing our methane footprint so that the county is a great place for us to live and a great place for our children and grandchildren to live. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand this over to Marilyn Nauman, who is the director of our Resource Recovery Division, and she's also going to introduce her staff who will be doing the webinar this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. My name is Marilyn Nauman, and I'm the Associate Director for the Resource Recovery Division, in which the recycling section is housed. And I would like to thank everyone tonight for being on this session to learn more about composting and what it means to the broader community, and how what you're doing is helping all of us to better our environment. And generally what's happening is we're taking a useful byproduct of, in this case, food scraps or food waste that may have otherwise ended up in the regular trash and deposited at the landfill, where it would basically stay for eternity. And what we're doing together is we're diverting these food scraps instead to the county's organics composting facility, where it is there mixed with yard trim, and a beautiful product is made. We have both leaf grow, which is the yard trim only, and then the new product that's been made or being made is leaf grow gold, meaning it actually, with the food scraps incorporated into the yard trim, it's actually a richer product to put, like a soil amendment within the gardening and on lawns and so forth. So we thank you for your participation. Again, this is a very renewable reuse for our food scraps. It's not being landfilled, and instead it's going back out into the environment to potentially grow more vegetables and fruits and things of that nature. And I'd like to welcome Denise Curry. She's our section manager for the recycling section. And so this is a very robust program that the recycling section has been working on for a number of years, which Denise will get into a little bit about how we first started as a pilot in Prince George's County. And I might add that Prince George's County in this arena is a leader, not only in the state of Maryland, but we have one of the most advanced composting facilities on the entire East Coast. So it's something for Prince Georgians to be very proud of. in the whole effort for waste diversion and just really taking things that shouldn't be thrown away as trash. And like Andrea spoke to, which we know when we landfill, it does create methane gases and some other byproducts, but we're really pulling something out now and making something great out of it. And I believe Denise may have another one of her staff members who may or may not be speaking this evening, but I do want to mention his name, Randolph Wilson. He's one of our environmental planners, and he's been very instrumental in making sure, that the residents are receiving their materials and answering questions. And so I would really just like to give a shout out to Randy and in this platform, just tell Randy as well as Denise a big thank you. And so with all of that said, I'm going to now turn it over to Miss Denise Curry. Thank you.
Good evening, all. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Randy. I would be remiss if I didn't thank him to begin with. He has taken this phase of our project and just run with it. Some of you probably know him personally because he has taken on the task of delivering carts at the very last hour of this project. But thank you all for joining us. And with that, we're going to proceed into our presentation. Next slide, please. Food scrap composting is just one facet of the county's waste diversion plan intended to protect and preserve the environment within Prince George's County. Among the many benefits of food scrap composting is the reduction in greenhouse gases in the landfill from food that is decomposing in our landfill. It conserves valuable landfill space, and it assists, as was mentioned, in the production of an all-natural, chemical-free soil conditioner known as Leaf Grow Gold. Leaf Grow Gold is solely produced in Prince George's County, and it is sold from our facility in Upper Marlboro in bulk, 5 cubic yard loads, but it is so powerful and so useful in the environment that it is used to remediate soil erosion, and it also helps to grow healthier and more robust plants. Next slide, please. Before we move forward, let's take a look back. During the 2012 legislative session of our county council, a waste diversion goal of 45% was the target for 2015. Our mission in DOE was to determine how we were going to get there and make sure we did it or exceed it by that date. Well, to assist us in that endeavor, the county council passed an environmentally aggressive piece of legislation. That bill, CB 87, mandated food scrap composting by 2014. Next slide, please. In 2013, a full year ahead of the requirement, under the leadership of our current Associate Director, Marilyn Nauman, the county tested food scrap composting using the Gore Cover technology. After a successful one-year pilot, there were 2 expansions to the system, from a 3-heap system, which is pictured in our top photo, and to our 4-heap system, which is not pictured yet, and from 4 heaps to 8. Under those heaps, we composted over 1,500 tons of food in the 3-heap system, 4,400 tons of food in the 4-heap system, and double that to almost 10,000 tons of food scraps in FY18 using the 8-heap system. In 2018, once we realized that we were onto something here, this is a good thing for the environment in Prince George's County, we installed a 12 bunker walled system. This is a permanent installation which allowed for the acceptance and processing of over 32,000 tons of food scraps per year. Next slide. While improvements and growth were occurring at the facility, we also saw a need for the programs to grow. So in 2017, the county made a successful application for an EPA grant which funded a year-long curbside collection pilot. Targeted communities were located in the central area of the county. And for about a 6-month period, we collected materials solely from those 200 households that chose to join us. And then as we progressed, after 6 months, we expanded the area to northern parts and southern parts of the county, where we collected materials combined with yard trim. And we determined there was a 5.5 pound per household per week food scrap collection throughout the course of that year. So we consider that a huge success. Moving forward with the successful completion of that first phase with that pilot, we went to phase 1, expansion, and we got aggressive. We said, well, let's offer it to 10,000 households, which we did. And in the communities, in various communities, a little more spread out, a little more, diverse in our service areas. We got a little over 1,500 opt-ins through that endeavor. Next slide, please. Our progress with phase 1 behind us, we're aggressively looking to grow and expand to keep up with the opportunity that we have for 32,000 tons at our composting facility. And we pressed on to phase 2. Phase 2 wouldn't have been accomplished, I'll say, without the assistance and support of Randolph Wilson. So here we are today, fully engaged and engrossed in phase 2. And this opportunity was offered to all 172,000 households that are currently receiving county services for waste collection. I don't like to say trash or waste, but that's what it is. If you're a participant in the county's curbside programs, you were given the invitation. You were afforded this wonderful opportunity to join us in the endeavor. We reached out to you all through various means. First and foremost, a letter from our director in a customized envelope. Followed that with a postcard that detailed how you could opt in and by which date. Next slide, please. Of the 172,000 households, we had 20 respondents, 20,000 households to join us in this endeavor. That's nearly 11%, which is a huge success again. We do still have requests coming in, although our opt-in date was February 22nd. We're excited to continue to receive those opt-ins, although we may not be able to accommodate everyone at the present time. The delivery of the program materials started on March 28th. It continued for the entire month of April, in which we celebrate Earth Day, but for us in DOE, we celebrate Earth Month. So a cart was delivered probably Monday through Saturday. We allowed our delivery crews the Sunday off, and they delivered and pressed through to deliver the carts that were requested. You can advance, please. Thank you. Delivered along with those carts was a welcome packet. That welcome packet consisted of the materials. Each of you who were on this call should have received a welcome package that included a service launch date flyer, a how-to guide, an FAQ, a refrigerator magnet, and a list of acceptable compostable liners. Next slide, please. But if you did not receive those things, that's the point of part of this presentation, is to assist in this process and give you the information that's needed to make our program a success. All of the acceptable items are listed here. Maybe not all, but there are a bunch of acceptable items listed here and a myriad of others that could also be included. You can see we have fruits and vegetables. That means whole fruits, pieces of fruits, the seeds of fruits. That means the rinds off the peels off of your fresh fruits, tea bags and loose tea, ice cream containers, which are uncoated, our paper towels and napkins, pretty much anything that comes out of your kitchen. Eggshells, another notable item is our seafood and seafood shells. Crab shells are accepted. Food, soil, paper products, paper towels, and paper napkins would be very beneficial if you're putting your food waste in your container for collection. They help absorb the wet matter and keep your cart a little cleaner if you're combining those materials in. Nearly anything that comes out of your kitchen is accepted. Next slide, please. So let's prepare for our collection. In preparation for collection, there are a variety of ways to go about it. You can choose to line your organics cart with a paper yard trim bag or another absorbent material, paper towels, paper napkins. I didn't mention pizza boxes earlier, but pizza boxes are accepted. You can use yard trim, leaves, grass to help soak up the moisture that's associated with food when it begins to break down. You may choose to use a liner, but they are not required. I cannot stress that enough. I don't want anyone to think, oh, I'm not doing this because I can't afford the liners or I don't want to buy liners. Liners are not required. You can place your materials in the cart loose, combined with yard trim will help absorb some of the moisture or some of the yuck factor, as I say, but they are not required. Your yard trim can be placed in the cart as well, independent of food scraps, but ideally you would combine your food scraps with this opportunity. The yard trim again will help to remediate the moisture associated with food as it breaks down. One thing that I have to emphasize is food scraps must be placed in the organics cart for collection. We cannot place food in a paper yard trim bag or a compostable liner and sit that on the curb, or we're going to have unwelcome visitors to our communities and our curbsides. So we have to insist that the food scraps must be placed inside of the green organics cart for collection. Next slide, please. So since we're placing our materials loose in the can, it's important to know how to take care of the cart or the can. So you can see here that you can use a variety of items. You can simply use your water hose if you have one and soap and water, or you can choose to use lemon or vinegar or baking soda or a combination of those items to help keep the cart clean and smelling relatively fresh. Same thing with your mini bin. You won't have to hose it out. You can use that. You can take care of that in your kitchen sink, but you may want to sprinkle it with a little baking soda, wash it out periodically. And you can also use your newspapers to help absorb moisture that's associated with the food. Next slide, please. So here is what our organics cart looks like. It's been delivered to most of you or many of you by now. You can see that it's hot stamped on top with a list of acceptable compostable materials and food items. And it also, which is not rendered here, has a serial number on the front. That serial number is associated with your specific address. So you can also customize your cart a little bit further by adding your address or house number on that cart to ensure that you receive your cart back after collection. Our contractors are required to place them back neatly at the curb. Sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe collection areas are clustered, but in the event, if your house number is on it, you can be sure to get your cart back. Also important to note is the yellow sticker. This yellow sticker, which is a no-no. If you see a yellow sticker on your container, that means something is wrong. That means there's a contaminant in the cart and the contractor will not collect your materials if you have a yellow sticker on your cart. They may also place that yellow sticker if they open the lid and identify there's a plastic or a styrofoam or something along those lines that's in the cart that doesn't belong. So be wary. If you see a yellow sticker, reach out to us because the contractor will not go through and pull it out. They will sticker the container and they will move on to the next container. Next slide, please. So should you encounter an issue or concern or have a question, please note We collect our materials on Mondays only, except for certain holidays. If you should have a question or concern, you can reach out to PGC 311 by dialing literally 311 from your phone, a landline or cell phone, as long as you're within the county boundaries. Outside of the county boundaries, you would be required to dial the full number, 10-digit number, 301-883-4748, 301-883-4748 between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. They're also accessible via the website, online, and PGC also has a mobile app that you can download on your cell phone. It's PGC 311 on the go. It is a free application. That means you can have them in your hand 24/7 if you like. Next slide, please. This slide details our upcoming holidays. Our collections will begin on Monday, May 16th, and we will have services for 2 weeks before we have a holiday. That'll give us an opportunity to get things going, but on Memorial Day, there will not be collection. Collections will resume the following Monday. So you can prepare, you can have your holiday feast, you can have your cookouts and reserve your materials and store them appropriately so that they can be collected the following Monday after the Memorial Day holiday. Again, it's important to note that all of our food scraps can be combined with yard trim, meaning grass clippings, leaves, small branches, brush, and our Christmas trees. If you should still happen to have one, we will accept it. And we use those materials when we collect our Christmas trees for an annual Mulch Madness event. The Christmas trees are ground, made into mulch, and returned to residents who come and participate in our mulch giveaway, typically during Earth Month each year. Next slide, please. Acceptable compostable liners. These liners are representations, just so you have an idea of the various brands and different bags that are in the marketplace and that are available. There's no particular recommendation for one bag over the other, but we have tested these brands through our system, and they do perform well for storing the material at home as well as processing through our system on site. Next slide, please. So to provide a little additional information about the quality of a compostable liner, you want to look for those that say home compostable or commercially, industrially compostable and acceptable. If you look for the labels that are in the lower portion of the slide, those are important guides to follow. They'll help you just know that no traditional plastic bags will be accepted. I do know that there are a few in various grocery stores that resemble compostable liners. They're green, like most compostable liners. Please do not try it. If it's not printed, if it does not say it's compostable, it is not, and it will not be accepted. Next slide, please. The list of non-acceptable items. Plastic bags, number 1, will not be accepted. Styrofoam, milk jugs, diapers, clean or dirty, not acceptable. Pet waste, not acceptable. Pots and pans, foil, metals, aluminums. Another really important item is the grease or fats and liquids of any kind. All of those are unacceptable items. Grease stained things, a little grease here or there is not a big deal, but we will not accept a container of grease or fat in the composting program. Liquids will break down your compostable liners and they won't be contained at all. They'll create a huge mess that you're not going to want to deal with curbside. Other things that are not compostable and not accepted in our program are car parts, cell phones, car keys, or toilets or toilet seats, all of which we've received at some point in time. We've determined they're not acceptable. So next slide, please. At this point, before we go to the best part of the evening for you all, I'm sure, is before we get to that Q&A, we'd ask that you assist us in identifying names and slogans for the curbside composting program. We'd love to hear your opinions. There's a 2-minute survey that you can vote for the program name or slogan of your choice. The polling closes tomorrow. So if you would, after we finish tonight, copy this link and go and fill out that survey as promptly as possible to facilitate us in identifying a new and dynamic name for this dynamic program that we've all become a part of. With that, we can go to the Q&A. And thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Denise, for talking us through all of the ways to compost in this exciting program. The three of us are going to kind of tag team on some of these questions. I'm going to start with a group of questions around the economic benefit of this and the benefit back to the residents. There's a lot of questions around, well, the county's making money off of my compost. What are you doing with that? And it's important to understand that what we're using the money that we make off of this for is to make the program doable and make the program sustainable. Each of these carts costs about $70. We have to send them out. We have to take care of them. We have to run the organics composting facility. We collect taxes for our baseline programs, but the reality is that we wouldn't be able to do these programs if we couldn't bring in the revenues that we bring in from items like our Leaf Grow and now our Leaf Grow Gold. There's a really large amount of interest in being able to access those products. They are accessible by buying them from, the wholesalers that purchase at wholesale, and then there are, retail outlets that sell them. But we understand there's a lot of interest, and we are working out how we can make that financially doable and continue to make the program affordable, because we know that folks would like access to these products. So we're working through how we can make that work. Perhaps something like our Mulch Madness days or some kind of in-community events where people can come and access some of the compost. I will tell you, unlike some of the vendors that you kind of do an exchange where you put out your item and you get compost back, that will never be, fiscally feasible at the countywide level. But we would like to make this easily accessible to our residents, and we're working through options to do that. Another question that I've seen a lot of things about are about how to get the liners and how to know whether the liners are the right kind of liners. So we are working through doing some engagement and meeting with the Grocers Association, some of the representatives of industries like our hardware stores, both our mom and pop stores and our Home Depots and big guys, and even our 7-Elevens, to make sure that these liners are accessible, and so that there's going to be some kind of signage in those stores telling you whether an item fits into our larger programs. That when you're going, for example, I've got some, I had a party where I looked for compostable forks, and I was able to find them based upon the labels, but it would have been a lot easier had there been a sign right in the grocery store that allowed us to find that. So that's another popular question, and we're working with our partners to do that. A lot of people have raised concerns about the types of bins and both our toter and our kitchen pail in terms of sizes, in terms of whether they could fit the toter in their garage, et cetera. And that's another thing that we're taking as feedback from this initial session to see what our options are. I will tell you, for those who are not already opted in, that the toter is significantly smaller than any of the large trash or recycling toters that you already have at your house. So it is a lot easier to fit in places, but I do understand that some folks are concerned about either they don't have a lot of yard trim, so they won't have anything to put in the bottom, or they're just concerned about the size and how it will fit. So we're looking in and trying to understand that question and that concern and figure out whether operationally we're going to be able to do something, to create some other options. We're not sure yet, but that's something that we are, we're taking all of this information and learning from you all as we go through this process. Another really common question and thing that people have raised is that they didn't get any information about when their toter was going to be delivered. We had a wide window, and you didn't get an exact date. And so that's another thing. Operationally, we're determining whether it's feasible for the next rollout to be able to give folks at least a smaller window about when they can expect their toter. One thing we learned while we were putting them out was that it takes a while for the lids to go back to the shape that they were in before they were stored. And so some water was getting into the toter. So that's another lesson that we learned. in this process so that, you know, your friends and neighbors won't have that same issue. We know that they have to sit in the sun for a day in order to kind of reshape. And I know there's some folks who still have concerns about the what's going on with their toter, and, you know, reach out to us and we can figure that out if there are ones where still the lid is not closing quite right. That covers a bunch of the questions. Let's see. So Denise, can I compost fast food containers such as drink cups and chicken boxes? How about hamburger wrappers?
As long as the paper is uncoated, not waxy or, you know, covered with a film, it should be, and it's not parchment, and it's not, what was our other one? It's not parchment paper. It's, it should be acceptable in the program. Most fast food wrappers are uncoated. The boxes from the chicken places do compost pretty well. Cardboard, which our pizzas come in, composts, and it's a wonderful additive to the system. So those paperboard boxes, as long as they're uncoated, yes, they're acceptable. The cups, if they're waxy, I would say when in doubt, let's leave it out and, you know, do what we can, which will be a huge improvement over what has been done in the past.
Yeah, and I might add, Andrea, that sometimes the fast food, if so, you know, oftentimes some places will use, it's sort of like what we call a multi-layer type of material. So if you see anything within the wrapping that looks like foil, for instance, leave that out. So, you know, just always think of what is compostable. Is it most like paper? Because, you know, paper coming from a tree will compost. Aluminum, which is a metal, it's not going to break down in our system.
And I think we answered these questions around bags, but do know that we're going back through and seeing if we can find additional bags as well that fit well into the system. So there's been a lot of questions about, are there plastic compostable large bags that fit the toter? I think we covered that a little bit, but we are going back through because we realized that some of the property numbers that were on our original documentation, some of them have been replaced. So we're trying to expand that list and again, work with our local retailers so that they're carrying things that can be used. And the question of paper bags, you can absolutely use paper bags in both the small and the large toter. In fact, you know, I got some food delivered today. It came in this little paper bag. And I can use this inside of my small toter to put some things that I maybe want, you know, inside of my small pail to put some things in. So they can be, both those can be used, and the large, you know, yard bags can be used in the larger toter. In fact, I think a lot of folks, even I think Denise was describing that she uses it, rolls it down, rolls it back up, puts the new things in, and that works very well. I found that I don't want to buy bags. I don't want to use bags. I don't really want to either make the investment or have to deal with them. And I have been putting my kitchen pail in the dishwasher, and thus far it's like, even it doesn't even take the label off. Like the label, well, you can't see it, but it looks just as good as when I started. And that is very effective for me in terms of using it on a daily basis. I've been trying to use it every day on a daily basis for about a month, even though I live in College Park and I have to bring my own compost to the OCF. But all right. Folks talked about leaf grow in smaller quantities. Now, we don't bag the leaf grow, but you can buy leaf grow in bags that are from other counties. We found that the most fiscally responsible way to do it is to sell it in bulk. But again, we're looking at opportunities to get that back to residents. Where do most of the materials that are currently being composted come from? Denise, you want to handle that one?
We have a number of residential programs underway where they're already doing curbside collection. Our original pilot tested materials from the University of Maryland, from University Park, and a number of other commercial entities. So we're receiving materials from those institutions, as well as our community, our residents, and various other communities that do not have county provided services. We're receiving the bulk of our material residentially right now.
Great. So the question of are Keurig K-Cups acceptable? No. There are recycling programs for those K-Cups directly through, that are like mail order programs, but for the most part, they aren't even recyclable. So they cannot be put in the composting container because they do not break down. There's a series of questions about folks who have not, who missed the opt-in date. So we don't yet have what is the rollout date for the next set of opt-ins, but we have through the next county budget been funded through our solid waste program to be able to roll out enough carts to bring in about half the county over the course of the fiscal year, with the entire county being hopefully choosing to be a part of our program by the end of fiscal year 24. So our hope is to have the next opt-in information out before we get to the end of the spring. Right now we are in combination of getting that set up, but also trying to make sure that we have a robust communication program so that folks know what we're doing and how we're doing it and how it both fits into our fiscal sustainability as a county and our environmental sustainability as a county. Can you describe coded versus uncoded? I think we've largely covered this, but if you're not sure and it seems like it's coded, you should probably just leave it out. Many of like the compostable cups, they kind of have a, environmentalist hippie look at this point. Like I have these compostable cups that I bought, the coffee cups, they're just unbleached like paper. And they just look like a paper bag made into a cup. This one is a pretty obviously compostable one. But it can be more confusing if you don't have the label from the original package, if it doesn't say on it, and it isn't labeled by one of these major, whether it's BPI or one of the European labels, leave it out if you're not sure. We are trying to capture as much as we can, but we also understand that we're not going to capture everything. Next question is it going to be collected every week? Like we mentioned right now, we have, 3 Monday holidays this year on which it will not be collected. It will be collected year round. And in some of the future contracts, we're trying to determine if it's feasible to have it collected on those holidays too, because we want folks to be able to have those family barbecues and put everything in on Sunday afternoon and know that it's going to be gone on Monday. We really want this to serve as not just, an environmental choice, not just a fiscally responsible choice, but also something that really suits, our lifestyles so that it's something that's adding benefit. I know if my family's going to have crabs, it's going to be on a Sunday afternoon. I would love, always to be able to have, put that in the bin and have it be gone on Monday rather than knowing that it's sitting in my trash receptacle until my later in the week trash pickup. So that's great. Somebody asked about what they can do with their mini bin if it's not useful for them. Do we have a method for returning that, Marilyn or Denise?
We do not. We don't have that option at the moment.
But that's something we'll take into account as we're figuring out what to do next with the program too. For me, it's going to make the most sense to just get a second trash can because I realized that most of my trash is actually compostable waste. So I'm looking at how I can make that work in my kitchen. My current trash is under the counter. Do I want to put another bin under there? Like, I'm not quite sure what's going to work with my lifestyle. But right now I'm using the mini bin, but I could see a future where it's not as useful to me. So we'd love to figure out a way to reuse those.
Yeah. Andrea, so I might add, because I also received a question recently. We have a resident who is, doesn't have a large family, and therefore the kitchen pail itself, she found a little bit too large. So I just want to add that the kitchen pail, is complementary to go along with the organics cart. The most important thing that we issued was, in fact, that organics cart to sit out at the curb, because as Denise said, the food waste or food scraps can't be just left on the ground in a bag, because, then that would attract, maybe some unwanted wildlife, to our communities. So, residents can use any kitchen type of collection container that suits your needs. If you don't want the kitchen pail that was provided along with your cart, like Andrea and Denise said, that we actually don't have right now a collection method to really go back, that would be an efficient operation, within the county to do right now. And that's something we're looking at to sort through next time. But if you're ever like visiting one of our public convenience centers, one located at Brown Station Road, or the other one at Missouri Avenue, please feel free, if you can't find use for that kitchen pail for your food scraps, you can just give it to one of our property attendants, and they'll be more than happy, to take that off your hands for you, because, of course, we will reuse that container, and, it could be put to good use. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case you're visiting one of our convenience centers.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Marilyn.
You're welcome.
There's a number of questions about weeds and yard waste. Weeds are yard waste. So what is yard trim? Yard trim, like we said, it's basically all the green stuff, right? It's your cuttings from when you mow the lawn. It's the things that you trimmed off of the bush. It's the weeds that you pulled out. It's pretty much anything that, if you left on the ground, would eventually disappear back into the ground that you pulled out of your yard. And yes, you can put those directly in the toter. You can put them inside of the bag if you're using a bag or liner. And it's great to put those in the bottom. In fact, I've had stuff in this bin for an embarrassingly long time. But it's not gross, because in the very bottom, I put a bunch of these like cuttings from my cedar tree. So even though it's got food waste in here, it doesn't smell terrible. I've also got a pizza box that I put in between the goopies and the stuff at the bottom, which was a nice little way of doing that. And I'm going to bring this to the OCF tomorrow because I'm embarrassed of myself. But the other question that I see a lot is it going to be, where do I put it? Where is it going to be picked up from? It's going to be picked up from the same place that your regular collection is picked up. So wherever you usually put your trash and recycling bin, wherever you've traditionally put your yard waste on Mondays, same place, nothing different. That's where the collectors will know to come, when the haulers will know to come. Some questions about, will the contractors recognize compostable liners or give a yellow sticker when they see plastic? We are hoping through our training program that they will be good about it. There may be some mistakes. We're all learning together, and we'll come out and help you deal with that if that's the situation, and we'll do more training, right? There's turnover there as well as anywhere else. We're doing our best to educate them on how to identify the difference between a compostable liner that's appears to be plastic but is made from a starch versus an actual plastic bag. So one of the funny stories when we were doing the original rollout was right in the neighborhood of the county, or the CAO, and people that the haulers in that neighborhood had taken out the little bags that people had put in from their kitchen toters and took the yard waste because they didn't know yet. And so we're working to make sure that they are adequately trained and they know what the options are. It says, what about fat from trimming meat and poultry? The solid fat is fine. A little bit of fat, let's say you use a paper towel to wipe out the fat that's in the bottom of the I think bacon, sorry, vegetarian pan. That amount of fat is fine. What we just don't want is my mom used to keep that can of fat on the back of the stove, that level of fat. We don't want you pouring oils and fats into the container because it can just cause a huge mess. And it's one of the main vermin attractors, right? So one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that this process is really enjoyable for you, and it's not going to be enjoyable for you if we wind up with trash pandas in our trash and all of those things. So yeah, that solid fat and skin and things from trimming meat and poultry, bones, oyster shells actually are okay, oyster and mussel shells and things like that, even as well as your crab shells, are all fine, which was shocking and interesting to me. The bones from the middle of a T-bone steak, that big ham bone even, is not a big deal. Our microbes are moving at such an accelerated rate because of the covers and the advanced technologies. That's all fine. All these things that you would never compost in your backyard composting, we can take care of all of them. Somebody said, is yogurt acceptable since it's dairy? I think that's fine as long as you're not making everything so wet that it's going to be a mess for you. Obviously not in the container. It has to be removed from the container. Somebody asked, milk gallons? No, not milk gallons. The liquids from those should go down the drain, I think. And the if it's a plastic container, then it can go into our regular recycling process. Or a quart size, half-gallon size container can go to our regular recycling process. Does yard trim have to emit the soil, such as from ripped weeds? Nope, don't worry about it. I mean, we don't want a whole bin full of soil, but the soil that gets attached to weeds, don't worry about it. Some folks are missing some of the items. We will, we'll try to collect that information and get that to you, like the magnet, etc. You may have already said this, keep lid on covered when you put the cart out for pickup. Right, yeah, you don't want rain and all of that to get in there. You keep it closed just like you do the rest of your toters. Keeps the critters from coming in and spreading it out, whether they're your community cats or what have you. Is yard trim only accepted through the cart now, or can it still be put in a brown trim paper bag? No, you can put, and you should put some yard trim in the bottom of the cart, the toter. And if you don't have it, you don't have it, but if you have it, to put it in the bottom as a nice liner, and then the additional yard waste can go in the paper bags outside of the toter. Somebody said the link to the survey is not working. We will check that. I understand that coffee grounds are acceptable. Absolutely. Can wipes like disinfecting wipes or unsoiled non-flushable baby wipes be composted? No, because those are actually not a paper material. They're kind of a cloth-like material. And the likelihood that they've touched something that we probably don't want to get involved in our composting is high. Is human grade, non-human grade food compostable, e.g. pet food? Absolutely. You've got that like really over can of, bag of cat food that's sitting in the back of the cabinet for 2 years. You don't feel comfortable feeding to your cats. Open it up, pour it out, put it in the bin. That's perfectly acceptable. What do you do if you get a yellow sticker? If you get a yellow sticker and you realize that you did actually put the wrong thing in there, just dump it into your regular trash bin. If you think it's an error, reach out to us. If you don't know why you got it, reach out to us. Do you anticipate cats, foxes, ants, or roaches getting in the bins? No more than any of our regular trash bins. And hopefully, having the, essentially a twice a week pickup where, we've got it coming on Monday will reduce that. But right now you're putting out food in your trash, and now you're just putting out the food by itself. That should not create an increase in the amount of vermin getting into your bins. Same as anything else, you can consider putting like a brick or a rock on top of the lid so that the incredibly ingenuitous wild animals cannot find their way into the bin. I received a bin that appeared to have been used. How can I determine is actually the bin assigned to my address? Well, you can verify through 311 that it's the, by reaching out to 311, we can check to make sure that it's the right number. My guess is what it is a lot of the bins came dusty because they came from our facility, our organics composting facility, where we are always moving around mulch. Another lesson learned is that after we realized that was happening, we asked our contractor to make sure they were wiping down the bins before they gave them. So I apologize that you got one that was dirty. It definitely did not come from another residence. We didn't take one from a different residence and put it there, but that is probably what happened. But if you want to check to make sure that the right bin is at your house, we can handle that through 311. How does one get a replacement curbside bin? Oh, this one broke already. I'm so sorry. If you report that, you can either report that to 311, or if you can just put your information here, we'll take care of that for you.
Yeah, Andre, can I speak to that for just a moment?
Sure, please.
So the carts, including the trash cart, the recycling cart, and of course now our new organics carts. It's very important, like when reporting to PGC 311, whether you do it by phone or your online service requests. Online, I believe there's a notes area where you can add the notes. It's very important that we know if the cart was, did it fall into disrepair because it just broke, and because we have a warranty. The county, we have a 10-year manufacturer's warranty. So it makes a difference rather you know, it's a defect and it broke. It could be the lid. So some of the common things when something does happen that we'll see is it might be the lid cracked or broke, or there's something wrong with the wheels on the cart. Very rarely do we see a body, the main body of the cart break. And where it becomes a big difference is rather, you know, we have to determine if it's, you know, a defect and it shouldn't have broken versus rather or not the cart was mishandled, perhaps by, you know, the collector having a real bad day and maybe, you know, didn't do a proper placement and may have broken the cart. So I just wanted to throw that out there, just, you know, to be aware that if something did happen to the cart, if it, you know, broke, just please indicate that when calling or putting in a service request, because we do have a warranty on the carts, and, you know, they're replaced in full at no additional cost to Prince George's County. And that's just a real important point. So thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Another question is, if the compostable liner has a rip or repair, will it still be collected? Absolutely. Like you don't need to use a liner. If the liner gets ripped, it doesn't matter. It will still be collected. Someone asked, can you explain again what the little gray and white container is for? That's the kitchen container. We gave you a little container to keep in the house so you can empty that into the larger toter outside. Somebody says, I have a larger bin. Where can I obtain a smaller bin? I don't quite understand that one. I did say that, you know, we were considering what options we had in the future, but right now there's both a green bin. You should have gotten both the green toter and the small inside, you know, gray and khaki gray, whatever, and white bin kitchen pail. If you didn't receive one of those items, reach out to 311 or provide your information here, and we will follow up to make sure that you have everything that you need. A question about if somebody doesn't want to participate in the program, will we pick the toter back up? Marilyn, can you answer that?
Yeah, yes, we will. We will pick the cart back up from you if you, I mean, we would obviously first like to have a conversation, you know, to find out, you know, why, and hopefully maybe be able to answer some questions to help keep you participating in the program. But yes, if you no longer want the cart and, you know, definitely want to stop participating, we will retrieve the cart.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'd like to add,
Sure, absolutely.
if you receive the program materials, the cart can be used for yard trim as well. It doesn't have to, you're not obligated or required. We would love for you to put your food scraps in there, but you can use the cart for yard trim and not include food scraps with it. So if you do have a yard and you're not really into the food thing just yet, because we're going to progress and get to that point, perhaps you keep the cart and utilize it for your yard trim.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Denise. Especially, you know, this is something new, and, you know, and being new at, you know, thinking about putting your food scraps, especially if you don't want to use a liner, you know, you might want to just start off with putting some yard trim in there and maybe just putting in like that banana peel or that apple core, and then, you know, see how it goes and gradually build up over time with your comfort level as to what you put in it and how much you put in it. Because any little bit, any amount that you divert, you know, that you no longer put in your trash can, that you're now putting over in that green cart, any little bit really helps. And at the same time, it's going to reduce how much you're putting obviously in your trash cart. So now your trash can or cart is not, you know, quite filling up as fast, or, you know, you might not have to, you know, go out and buy an extra, you know, trash container because perhaps your cart's filling up, you know, too much. So I thank you, Denise. That's a really great point. You know, start slow. You don't have to go all out the first week, months, year, you know, just, you know, try to put a few things in there, and fruit, is probably one of the best things to start off with.
How should the pizza boxes be broken down prior to put them in the compost box? Doesn't matter. Just put them in there. Can we include paper shredder output? Denise or Marilyn, I'm not quite sure about that one.
Andrea, can I speak to pizza boxes for one moment? So pizza boxes are a great absorbent, and we do accept pizza boxes in the recycling program so long as they're not too terribly soiled, meaning there's not a lot of grease on the boxes. So it is a great thing to now use in the organics cart. There's just one thing I want to caution. If you're using the pizza box in the bottom of your cart, you want it to sort of lay, I'm going to use the word freely in the bottom of the cart so that it still has some movement. So when the crew is what we call tipping or emptying the cart into the back of the hopper or the collection truck, we wouldn't want the pizza box too tightly nestled in the bottom of the cart if you want the box to also fall out with all the content. So that's just one thing I just want to
basically don't wedge it in there so it gets
Don't
stuck,
wedge
because then it's going to be there and you don't want to be the one to have to pull it up. And I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of like
Just
make sure it's.
Yep, just don't wedge it. With respect to shredded paper, so shredded paper is problematic in our recycling program over at the materials recycling facility, simply because it's shredded and it just can go all over the place. And when you think about when we're baling paper, they it's sheets of paper. Even if it's balled up paper, there's bulk to it. Within the composting program, what we have said in the past, because this question has come up, if you have shredded paper, if it's placed into a paper, I'm going to say like a strong strength paper bag, like maybe, the typical type of paper bags the grocery stores kind of used to have before they started using plastic, or even one of the yard trim paper bags. As long as it's in the bag, it's rolled, the top of it is really rolled up tight so that we know no paper is going to go, blow around during collections. A little bit's okay. And so you're really just going to have to use your judgment and make sure that it is completely secured in a paper bag. And it would have to be in the cart because, again, our biggest caution with the shredded paper is if it could very easily become windblown around the community. And I think the last thing anybody really wants is then to have, see litter and then other neighbors complaining now that, there's shredded paper all over the neighborhood. So we really caution against shredded paper. And and it's on our website, there is a place in Prince George's County. It's one day out of the month. It's located over near Cheverly, and that might not be really close to you, but we do know of one place that will take shredded paper once a month free from Prince George's County residents. And then just keep your eye on our website, because oftentimes, there's different entities. It's not just necessarily our recycling section, but there's other governmental offices, including some private entities like banks, for instance, that sometimes will host a community document shredding event, which is wildly popular in the county. So I would tend to say sort of more like keep an eye open for those opportunities. But if you do have there's no opportunity, you want to make sure that it, is composted rather than, going out in a plastic bag, say to the landfill. If you use that strong paper bag, roll it up tightly, put it in that cart, we will take it.
So there's a question about the cost of leaf grow. And, generally one thing that I'll say is that One of the reasons why we can't give leaf grow back to residents right now is that we are sold out for the season. That is how dramatically popular it is. We actually have folks line up before the year even starts that they want the leaf grow as we produce it. And hopefully, as this program expands, we'll be producing more of it and we'll figure all of that out. But we're actually considering raising the price since, one of the goals of this program is to be fiscally sustainable. But what is the current price of leaf grow by the cubic yard? Marilyn?
Yeah, so the composting facility itself is not conducive to like small vehicular traffic. So at the facility, we are considered a wholesaler. And what that means is the customers who do come in, they have these really large trucks. The smallest size would be what we consider a state body truck, and that's generally holds about 5 cubic yards of material. And so we work with the Maryland Environmental Service, who actually does the marketing of the Leaf Grow and Leaf Grow Gold, and the sales of the sale revenues received from that product does come back to help offset the cost of the operations. So with those customers that come in who then are considered retailers, which are generally like landscaping companies, for instance, our product, again, is sold loose. So people in pickup trucks, for instance, can buy it at the retailers. And there is a scale depending on how much they're buying. So Denise, I don't know if you have, I don't have it off the top of my head what the sales price is per cubic yard, but it is on a scale depending on if you're buying, a small amount or medium or large amount of product.
I do not have the specific numbers,
Okay.
but it does vary
Right.
based on quantity and volume.
Okay. Thank you.
you.
Denise.
And so there's a question, will there be a second vehicle for compost pickup separate from lawn collection? No, it all goes into one vehicle. It all goes into produce one product. And that's one of the other really great environmental features of this. And frankly, a nuisance feature, because I don't know, I have dogs and every time the trash truck comes to the neighborhood, it's like the apocalypse in my house. Like they're barking and going crazy. So I love that there's only one truck coming through the neighborhood on Mondays. So no, I mean, that's a great feature, is that we can put it all in one truck. It's all going to get mixed in, and then we're going to be able to produce the product from it. Oh, Brittany is letting me know we're a little past 7:30. I'm going to keep answering questions until, I can't answer questions anymore. I've already broken into my post, my Modelo, which is supposed to be for after the session, because I ran out of water. So I apologize for anyone who saw my Modelo in the background, but we're supposed to be for 7:30. So now I feel less bad. I didn't receive a welcome package and I received my toter. We've been sending those out to folks who have let us know they didn't get a welcome package. Somebody bought bags that are plant-based material but are not labeled compostable. We really don't recommend using them unless they are either on the approved list or they have that label on them. If you want to go ahead and send me a picture of what you bought, I will figure it out for you. You're special because you're an early adopter. Some more questions about folks who didn't receive everything. Do I have to cut off the seal on paper bags that are used for grocery delivery, for like example, prime stickers? It's a de minimis, right? So when we talk about, what is contamination, we carry about big things. Like, please don't throw like a whole Solo cup in there, right? Stick with this cup. Don't throw a whole plastic bag in there. There's going to be stickers on things. There's going to be little tiny things that are wrong. They get so shredded up, and we have a process to remove things. Our goal is to have as little contamination as possible, but a sticker on a bag doesn't rise to that level. We don't want you to put in bags that have like large plastic parts. So like my grocery store, for some reason, insists upon making the bread bags partially plastic. Please don't put those in, because it's a pretty substantial thing and you can see it. But like a small thing like that, it's not perfect. And if you want to be the world's best contributor to the program, you can take that sticker off, but we would rather you feel that this is something that you can integrate into your daily life. So very small things, we're gonna, in the legal world, de minimis, we can handle them. I use a San Francisco Bay coffee pod, which are made with plant-based materials, and say, are they commercially compostable? Can I compost them? Denise or Marilyn, do you know the answer to that one?
I'm sorry, I was typing to try to respond to
Yeah.
another question. So I
Yeah.
couldn't hear it.
So like there's these little coffee pods from San Francisco Bay Coffee, and it says they're plant-based and commercially compostable. Can I compost them? Do we know, or should we look into that? I think that's
What I
would
would,
say yes.
I would say, I would love for that information if the person who asked that question, because I know we have an email box for this compost program, but that would be something really good that I'm interested in researching, because generally, if it's plant-based and if it is indicating that it composts in a commercial program, that should fit what we can accept. The only issue comes in is that in the world of packaging, we do know that there are claims made on packaging that's not necessarily accurate. So I'm very interested in the San Francisco, knowing what brand it is, and so if that person who
I think we'll look into that. We'd love to be able to
we would love to look into that.
That's awesome. Someone recommended potentially putting a latch on bins. It's something we can look into as you're exploring what are the best options for the program. Someone also raised, is it correct to say that a lot of the things that are not acceptable in this program can be placed in the recycle containers we have? Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have raised things that can already be recycled. So our goal is to divert as many items as possible, and in the long run, to just have a very, very small amount of things that are not divertible that are trash. So absolutely. This is a really interesting one. I work with a man with MES and Brown Station landfill permit, so I recognize and appreciate what PG County is doing to recycle and look forward to participating in the program. If these food items will go to the station, the MES station, what will be done to prevent all the vultures, crows, seagulls, and other wildlife that I always see at the Brown Station landfill? So one of the nice things is that the OCF is surrounded by forest. And so it's in a situation where there isn't a lot of exposure to folks around, but the speed of the process and like how quickly things break down, and the fact that we shred the things essentially as soon as they come in, we're constantly mixing them, constantly shredding them. I was out there in August. It was my first trip out there, and there was no smell. Like, it was incredible. Like, it was like there was barely any smell. And then when you get to the final product, it has absolutely no smell, but we really don't have the vermin problems. And MES is very familiar with programs that have failed because in other places there were contamination problems, there were vermin problems, et cetera. So we're really cognizant of that issue and making sure that our practices and procedures prevent that from being a problem at our facility. What is going to happen with the traditional trash pickup program? I mean, we're continuing to improve all of our services and programs. So we're trying to make sure that all of our services are the absolute best that they can be, and that we can divert as many items as possible. So right now, other than the addition into our trash program of the very popular bulky, we're working in other programs to seek diversion of reusable items, but nothing is really happening to the traditional trash program. We are just adding services, as we can figure out ways to do them in a fiscally responsible way. Hard coverings from nuts such as walnuts and pistachios, 100% throw them in there. Just so I'm clear, the small kitchen compostable bags, we can just dump in the large green bins without a liner. Absolutely. You can use a liner inside and not one outside. You can use one outside and not one inside. You can use one in both. You can use one in neither. Lots of options. Choose your own composting. It's I remember, like, Denise and I had this kind of like choose your own adventure conversation that I loved the way she talked about that. We want to make this fit into your lifestyle, and so lots of options there. Can you include nuts like acorns and walnuts from trees? Absolutely. They're yard trim. They can go right in there. Raw meat, absolutely. More recommendations, a return program, designated drop points for unused/clean containers. So that just a really great suggestion about how to deal with folks who don't want to use different containers. Townhome residents, yes, put them in the same place as you usually put your trash bins. Uncooked food, absolutely. Clean out your freezer right into the bin. Old pet food, we already covered. Can you take your toter with you if you move to another part of the county? No, it belongs to the residents. So you will just contact us, let us know you're a member of the program. And as soon as we have more toters available, if you are still in the county collection, we'll get you a toter at the next opt-in period as soon as we have one. But the toters are actually coded to the residences, and they are like thus coded to the next person who's in that residence and paying their property taxes. So it should remain with the residents, not with the resident. So it's not yours, it's your house's, I guess. Same as your trash cans. The mini bin, however, because it doesn't have a code on it, go ahead and take with you. And if the next person wants to get a mini bin, we'll get them a mini bin. Contact information we'll share again. Folks asked about the slides. We're going to share the slides. This is being recorded and we're sharing it. Somebody received a bin and cart they didn't request. Is it okay to keep these items and participate in the composting program? Absolutely. It's not, the haulers are out there collecting. They don't know. That's great. We'll make sure it's coded correctly and we didn't miss a neighbor that we should have delivered one to, but we'll take care of that. How are napkins different from facial or toilet paper? The risk of facial or toilet paper having some kind of bodily fluid on it, that is a risk to our haulers, is higher. And so we're asking that we not include those. Sometimes credit and debit cards are shredded with paper. Is that acceptable? No, those are plastic items. If you're going to put shredded paper, it should be shredded paper only. Where's the compost facility located, and do you give tours? Denise?
Yes, absolutely. We schedule them. Ideally, we do groups, but you can reach out to us either through the PGC Compost, COMPOSTS, at co.pg.md.us email address to request a tour, and we'll schedule and coordinate that for you. Be delighted to have you come out and see exactly what's going on at the state-of-the-art facility. It's the crown jewel, in my opinion, of Prince George's County, at least one of them.
It's a super fun tour. Absolutely. I love it. It's I love when I get to go out with people and show them that facility, and the tours are so informational and interesting, and just seeing how this works, it's really neat. I recommend it to anyone. Somebody asked about what's phase 3. How are we going to engage, our commercial partners? We're absolutely working to engage more commercial businesses across the county, and we're starting to work with schools, because one of the things that we would love is for our, recycling in the United States was largely driven by young people being informed and then harassing their parents to do this. So young people can be a great, source of encouragement to adapt this into folks' lifestyles. So we love the idea of working with our schools. We're trying to, roll this out to more and more of our commercial partners. They see this as a value because it's, it can be less expensive with the right haulers to have them taken away. They want to be a part of the community. They want to contribute. It's so important to feel that you're a green business and that you're contributing to these things. So we're working to get more and more commercial partners involved. Are avocado seeds acceptable? Absolutely. Wooden popsicle sticks? Absolutely. And in fact, many of the compostable serviceware products are actually made from bamboo or wood. So you'll see that a lot of the items that are acceptable on the list, they aren't made from that potato starch or cellulose material. They're made directly from some sustainable source of wood, which is usually bamboo, but other types of wood. So those popsicle sticks, absolutely.
Sorry, excuse me, Andrea. Could I trouble you, Antoinette, to go to the last slide, please, just so we can have some of that contact information handy for folks. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Sorry about that. Please continue.
Is dryer lint recyclable? No, please don't put your dryer lint in there. It is likely to blow away and just might contain fibers that don't go well with the whole process. It's one of the few items that will likely always remain in the quote unquote trash. We don't have a really good way of diverting dryer lint. The food scrap container, do we place it inside the green container or place it on the outside? The little container is for inside your house to use to put the stuff in the kitchen and then dump into the larger container. You shouldn't leave your kitchen pail inside of the container because they're not going to know what to do with that, and it's likely to get broken or damaged, or your been rejected. So that should stay back inside your house or wherever you choose to keep it. Maybe you want to keep it on the back porch or something like that, whatever you want to do with it, but it should not be inside of your toter when it's going to get collected. You can just dump the items in there. How can we put pressure on companies to make their products more easily separable, non-compostable materials from compostables, plastic labeling, etc.? Is there an innovations coordinator to call if we have ideas that wouldn't be appropriate for this session? We love to hear your ideas, either through PGC Compost or through DOE Cares. Feel free to send your ideas. We love that the community is so engaged around these things. We did support an EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility Bill at the state level this year to try to get our manufacturers to be consistent about the types of products that they use and to have to pay for part of their disposal. That's one method and one policy that, you know, kind of leans in on trying to create items into our waste stream that we can handle better, because those costs are weighed by us as the residents, right? We have to pay for our trash to be picked up. You know, we as the Department of Environment have to handle the waste, and the people who are making the product in the first place aren't responsible for that end use of it. And so there's a lot of policy movement towards making the whole cycle, you know, make a lot more sense and having people be responsible at every part of it. We ask a lot of you. We ask you to separate your items. We ask you to understand all of these programs. We want to ask the same thing of producers. And so, you know, we are really interested in that. And we are absolutely interested in your ideas and the objectives and policies that you think that the county should be going after in the environmental space. We try, you know, as a county, we are very ahead of a lot of the country, and we want to continue to be. We want to be forward thinking. We want to lean in on these issues. And, you know, we want to continue to be the established leader that the county has always been in environmental issues. Somebody asked again about smaller bins to help with space needed for the 3 bins, something we're looking into. Another person with bags they're not quite sure about, send us a picture and we'll figure it out. No on the sanitizing wipes. Can you add an asterisk on the list of acceptable compostable items that are affordable? That's kind of a really neat idea, like figuring out like if there are what are the most affordable options, and that would be a great thing for us to work with our vendors on too. Like in terms of like, if you're going to pick them up at the grocery store, are there ones that are more affordable than others?
Andre, can I add a point about the compostable or biodegradable bags? We do believe that a lot of our stores in the county will eventually start, if they're not already stocking various types of biodegradable bags, they will. When the county first banned plastic bags from yard trim collections, now we did work within the recycling section with a lot of the big box stores and hardware stores to let them know, hey, this is coming down the line, you know, only paper yard bags will be accepted at the curb, no more plastic. Some were a little bit quicker than others with stocking yard paper bags. But the bottom line is, once the program, you know, was operational, you know, within, you know, it took a little bit of time, but eventually now you can find those bags in just about every store, including grocery stores. So it's likely the same thing happens with these the biodegradable bags.
Right, and the cost will go down as these programs become more popular. I mean, one of the problems with being one of the first places to do this on such a large scale is that, you know, these things aren't, you know, they're just not sold in enough bulk yet. But hopefully, you know, we're gonna get there. There's a couple of companies that I've seen that have started, you know, if you don't have a bag with you when you go to the farmer's market, they actually give you the item in a compostable bag, which is the right size to fit in the mini bin. So hopefully over time that does become, you know, more affordable. Because yeah, we want everyone to be able to participate in this, even if they're not comfortable without using a liner or a bag, right? And so we want everyone to feel like they have the full ability to participate in the program. So we want to figure out how to make sure that those things are, you know, accessible and affordable. There was this recommendation that we have the links, you know, to the Amazon listings for items, because a lot of people use Amazon to deliver those items. That's something we can look into. Someone asked about the smell in the containers. Denise earlier recommended lemon vinegar or baking soda, rinsing the outside item out. I also find that if it's a nice hot sunny day, leaving it wide open. I do this with my trash cans in the summer. You leave them wide open when there's nothing in there. After your trash day, if it's a nice hot sunny day, the sun does amazing things. Like that's why we use UV to sanitize. So a lot of times that will help kind of pull that smell out and like freshen up the bin. But we do recommend, like I said, a vinegar solution is a great option. Sprinkle a little bit of baking soda in the bottom is a great option. Those lemon peels, and then all the things that we talked about to make sure that it doesn't get goopy at the bottom of the bin, putting some yard waste in the bottom, using that pizza box, like shelf methodology, those kind of things. I think, well, there's a question about plastic bags in Prince George's County. That is a larger policy issue about whether plastic bags will be banned, but just don't put them in your bin for now. If you purchase the leaf growth compost with the seeds from vegetable or fruits with the compost is made, start to sprout. No, they should, through the process, it produces a lot of heat. So one of the ways that it breaks down all of these items is that it produces a really massive amount of heat. We have to aerate it so that there's enough oxygen for the microbes to eat. So they're breaking down things. Now, in all compost, there is a possibility of there being weed seeds. Obviously, the product is not truly organic because it comes from a base that is not, 100% organic. When we put food in it, it doesn't qualify under the organic standards. But for the most part, there shouldn't be many contaminants in the final item that you get. Sometimes there's even like little tiny pieces of plastic or metal or whatever contaminants were in the overall item, but it's really small and it's really pretty rare. So it should kill off the seeds that are in the process, but some might make it through. Some of them are really strong. We know that pine trees, there's some varieties that only grow after a fire. So you might see some, but for the most part, it should be better than your average commercial mulch or growing material. And I think we got everything.
Good job.
Thank you so much. And there's 204 people who hung on to the end, and we love you. You are awesome. Thank you so much for being here from like the very bottom of my heart. I'm so, I've been here for almost a year now, and I am so consistently impressed with my neighbors across the county. I cannot say enough about how great this team is and the efforts they put in to bring this program to fruition. I will say that, they talked about an EPA grant earlier, but it was this program and this team that inspired the EPA to put out another, discussion around what we need to do as a team for recycling across the country, right? And leaders from across the country have come to see this facility and will continue to come to see this facility because of what this team has done and their devotion to making sure that this works. This county, like I said, we're environmental leaders and we lead from home. And that's incredible. It's wonderful. So thank you all so much for coming. If we didn't answer your question thoroughly, reach out to us. If things, you have questions as you go through the program, reach out to us, utilize 311. We look forward to being partners with you all on this. And thank you for being a part of the program.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.